Oh, baby. Welcome to the Sixers Talk podcast brought to you by Wilmington University. Wilm U Works, Danny Pommells, Noah Levick, Ben Barry. I'm excited. We are still basking in the glow and the wake, the shadow of Joel Embiid, 70 points. Haven't got to talk about it with the boys, although I have talked ad nauseum on social media in the office. So there are plenty of people, but a lot to get to with Joel Embiid, just because the fun just keeps rolling in, and the NBA giveth storylines in a way that we just cannot back away from, as former Sixers coach Doc Rivers is back in the news. We will dive into all of that. But Noah Levick, man, what an evening the other night. Joel Embiid, Victor Wembanyama. I guess that was Monday. I'm kind of like lost in the sauce a little bit. But not only was it a highly anticipated matchup between the number one overall pick, two unicorns in Victor Wembanyama, his 7'4" length, along with Joel Embiid and his massive outburst of scoring and MVP nature. Not only did we get that square off, but Brett Brown was in the building. There was a big reunion with the fellas, and we won't, a lot of this stuff has been talked about over the past few days. We won't hit it too hard, but being in the building for something like that, we kind of got the question thrown around a bit in the content room about what was the most points you've ever seen in person. I didn't have a great recollection of that. I definitely was in the building for a couple of Iverson outbursts, maybe a 50-point game in there, but the 70 points and Joel Embiid's efficiency in doing so, and there was probably a little bit more he left out there on the floor, but I didn't see it coming, man. I just did not see it coming. And I just really enjoy the way he has molded himself into this dynamite jump shooter. And like he said, it was just great to see Brett Brown witness that on the Spurs bench. But give us your take, man. I know you've written on the website about it, but give us your take and how blown away were you witnessing Joel's 70 points?
Yeah, definitely easy to just become a little numb to how easily he scores 15 or 20 in a quarter or whatever. But this is something that no one who has ever watched the Sixers has seen this many points. So yeah, I was there way back in the day when Iverson scored 60 and remember that vividly. And this was definitely similar in that the final, stretch of the game, the only person the fans wanted with the ball was Joel Embiid, as Daniel House Jr. rather harshly learned.
How
right?
funny was that, man?
It was funny. I mean, it's a little rough on House, who,
yeah, right.
And Embiid even brought up after the game, I was just telling the guys to make the right plays, and if you're open, you still should shoot. It's still a basketball game. But I think it is also understandable from the fans that you're witnessing someone who is very obviously able to score whenever he touches the ball, who is averaging over a point per minute this season, and he's rattling off historic numbers, and you're there. You want to just see how high he can go. So,
and just to give you some credence to that point, we saw on the same night the Minnesota Timberwolves melt away an incredible performance by Karl-Anthony Towns and lose the game because they didn't continue to play through the end and make the right basketball plays. So definitely some credence to that point Joel made.
Yeah, and I think inevitably his teammates were distracted too, and they were glancing right up at the scoreboard, and Tyrese Maxey said he was even informed of the franchise record being 68 points prior to Embiid's 70. So I think all the other performances faded very much into the background, and Wembanyama was really, really impressive.
Overshadowed in that whole thing. Yeah.
And that's rare that he is overshadowed, right? As his shadow usually looms over all. And he gave San Antonio a really hot start in this game. They took a 14-5 lead. And then you just recognized, Embiid has the ability to do a little more than his norm. But look, over his past 16 games, he's averaging greater than 40 points. I think that's not a small sample size, and it often doesn't feel unrepresentative. Many of those games, of course, he has sat out the entire fourth quarter. Even this game, he only played 36 minutes, 38 seconds, whereas, of course, Will Chamberlain, was averaging over 48 minutes a game in the season. He scored over 50 a night. So, yeah, I think Embiid has a respect for that history. Definitely said it was cool to be in the conversation with Wilt Chamberlain. And just from my perspective, it feels less and less ludicrous to kind of put him in that mythical, legendary, iconic category, because this is very much the kind of game that everyone who was there will be telling their grandkids about, and for good reason. He's like head and shoulders above everyone else right now as far as scoring, as far as dominance, as far as like having answers to absolutely whatever a defense throws at him. And definitely, we hear a lot, we should appreciate Joel Embiid, shouldn't take this for granted. Sometimes easy to brush those sentiments aside, but this was one where it was thrown right in your face, and I think just extraordinarily memorable and emblematic of all the ways Embiid is special. As you said, the jump shooting shined as always. He was just automatic in that mid-range, did a bunch of damage just with pure power, and as an offensive rebounder. And the old 21 for 23 at the foul line is a very reliable part of his game as well. And he shined as bright as he ever has on Monday night.
So much was made about Embiid not being up to his potential in years past, and all the criticism about his diet and him not being as consistent. And we still have yet to realize some of that stuff in the postseason, which I'm sure is in the back of his mind as the regular season here is winding past the halfway point toward what will eventually be where the Sixers who fit in the postseason in their matchup. I'm saying all that to say, equally, he deserves as much praise and adoration and appreciation now for what he has overcome to get here, and specifically just for what we saw and what we witnessed and what he's doing for us. Got some numbers to back it up, so please enjoy and soak these in a bit. I feel like we're not making enough of this points per minute thing, and we'll get back to that, but MVP season last year, 33 points a game, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.7 blocks per game. This season, yes, halfway through, but 36 points per game, 11.6 rebounds a game, almost 6 assists a game, almost 2 blocks a game. So he's turning it up.
He's gotten significantly better, not just a little better. He has noticeably improved in many important areas, and it's not just the raw stats. It's the
passing out of the double teams that aren't quite.
Yeah, and it's like
box score.
And as we said, like the Sixers have secured so many blowout wins, so he's improved in all those areas you mentioned, and like the per 36 stats as well. Has the best assist rate of his career by far. Yeah, I think the passing you still see. Little weaknesses here and there, little times where he'll not always make the right decision. But I think by and large, he's gained greater comfort in that area and doesn't seem to be thrown off his game whatsoever. If opponents double him really hard on every touch, he just has answers to whatever he sees. So yeah, he's made vast improvements, and I think that's a standout quality with Joel Embiid. You can't remember a season where he didn't return a better player, having thought a lot about where he needs to improve, and then been diligent and conscientious about making those improvements alongside his trainer Drew Hanlon. He's notorious for devouring film and watching every mid-range jump shot Dirk took or Michael Jordan took or whatever. And of course, he is uniquely capable of incorporating that into his own game and just delivering this really, really consistent production. Number 21, this was his 21st straight game with 30 or more in a row, and don't really see that ending anytime soon outside of, unfortunate circumstances with an injury or a situation where, the Sixers blow a team out by, 1 million points and it's deemed prudent to sit him. But really, like, if he is on the floor, he's going to score really quickly, and there's just zero doubt about that these days. It doesn't feel like the opponent really matters at all when he's on the court.
And when you think about what you saw on Monday night, and I just want to bring attention to this, I'm sure other people have noticed it, but it's just something I enjoy about watching Joel Embiid, particularly as the progression has come where we mentioned some things that Tyrese Maxey has picked up from Harden. I feel like that hand in the cookie jar thing when he kind of sweeps through and forces that foul is kind of Harden-esque as well. But when a guy like Victor Wembanyama with this ridiculous wingspan and the length to recover quickly enough to block his shot with his hand back and not in that cookie jar area. But the thing is that Embiid has fooled so many guys with that move that they take their hand back and keep it on the side. And then he has that hezzy at the free throw line that makes them take a step back. So then he has more space to work with in that pull-up jumper. And it's so funny. We talked about, I think I made this on the previous podcast, but just the lack of dunks that he's had this season, which they pinpointed in the Sixers-Nuggets game. So him blowing by you probably isn't more likely than him shooting the jump shot. But the threat that he might blow by you gives him that space to work there at the top of the key. I mean, excuse me, at the nail and the free throw line. So just real like high basketball IQ stuff. And he's at a point now where, like you said, he doesn't maybe not always make the right choice out of the double teams, but we're judging him on perfection almost by now. And we're expecting him to be so pinpoint each and every time. And just such genuine, mental growth as well for him to be able to navigate all of the criticism and the off-season stuff and the consistent injuries and still come out the other side. And you see him talk about it after the game and just be so surprised that just him and Michael Jordan are in that same category of over a certain amount of points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists. I think it was over 65 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists. But we also see some of that trickle into practice today with him wearing a leopard robe coat or what, maybe it might have been a robe on me and you. It looked like a coat on him,
right.
But just the air around the team is really supportive. And do you feel like this is different than what you've seen in the past from this team, or is this more, I'm just saying this is a new regime and Nick Nurse, Joel's in a different place, Tyrese Maxey is a better player. Is this a different team than you've seen in the past right now in South Philly?
Yeah, definitely very different stylistically. I think Nick Nurse has been super effective at instilling, like, this is how we have to play. This is the level of effort we're going to give every night. And, of course, Joel Embiid remains the cornerstone of the team, and he's a significantly better player. So that's going to help a lot. They're now 26-6 when Joel Embiid plays, and that doesn't feel fluky to me. It feels like the vast majority of opponents in this league just don't really have a chance against a version of the Sixers that has Embiid and Maxey healthy and gelling together. And yeah, Tyrese Maxey is an all-star caliber player, so that doesn't hurt at all. I think there's a lot of reasons for optimism. I do think the vibes are genuinely strong. I think the veterans have led effectively, and I think younger guys are receptive to the criticism and the intensity of someone like a Pat Bev. I think Nick Batum's been a really good low-key presence in that locker room as well. I think it looks like an awfully strong team here, albeit one that'll have to prove it can get past round 2.
Right, because we've been here before.
Yeah, it can beat the Boston Celtics, et cetera. Look, last year they won 54 regular season games, and there were a lot of reasons to feel good about them heading into that postseason as well. And they didn't have the necessary luck as far as Joel Embiid staying healthy, and their stars also didn't play well enough in games 6 and 7 against the Boston Celtics. So those, I think, still remain ways that this could go wrong for the Sixers. If opponents are determined to double and triple team Embiid, and he's a little better as a passer, he's a little more, clutch in the big moments, but it's just not quite sufficient, and what have you. It's really hard to win championships, but 29-13, 6 wins in a row for the Sixers ahead of this 5-game swing that they've got coming up. And I think undeniable that things are trending really positively, both with those tangibles and then fully agreed. Intangibly, the spirit of the team, as Brett Brown would say, I think is fantastic. And I think things have gone very much according to plan, in year 1 under Nurse, with about half of the season in the books.
What was your favorite thing after the game? He has this ridiculous eruption that everyone's heard about, talked about, seen, or have you. There's been some things that have happened since then. I don't know if there's a stat or them bumping into Brett Brown and all that conversation, and then or another player's reaction out there, the Kevin Durant thing, I was really excited about and watched that probably like 6 or 7 times in a row to see his reaction to hearing that Joel Embiid scored 70, because the reporter who asked the question it mentioned that Cat scored 62. I don't even think Durant heard that once he heard the 70 from Embiid and his reaction and the curse word and all that stuff. I just thought that was just really genuine. And from a guy who had just tweeted a few days ago, maybe a week ago, that, oh, Joel only needs 3 quarters, and then to see him go for 70.
Right. Yeah. You let him play the fourth quarter, that might very well happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So anything that came out for you?
I think just post game in that locker room, all of his teammates being a little stunned, even though, like as Tyrese Maxey said, this is normal. This is what he does. In all honesty, if you let him play his game and take mid-range shots, he's going to make a very, very high percentage of them. But yeah, just like the palpable disbelief and I think the appreciation that everyone there had been a little part of something historic, that really jumped out at me. And yeah, Maxey and Embiid, were doing their usual post-game bantering. Tyrese said you should have had 80. And look, I don't think that's probable, but I think Joel Embiid's now the kind of player where you don't really rule anything out. So yeah, it's hard for me to say, there's one moment that shines above all the rest. Mm-hmm. I do think, near the final buzzer, it kind of sunk in for me. So obviously on press row, we're all doing work during the game and we're trying to get things done ASAP so we can hustle
You're watching
off.
the game, you're typing, you're trying to tweak things, you're paying attention, but also multitasking.
Definitely multitasking, and just, there's a job to do, and it gets a little more hectic right around the final buzzer. And I noticed just like everyone around me was capturing the moment when he subbed out of the game and taking, the photo of 70 points, Joel Embiid's franchise record. And I was like, oh, I should probably do that too, right? Like it just, it kind of pulled you out of the zone you were in a little bit. Right. So personally for me, that is something I will remember, just his ability to snap you out of a kind of mode of automatic and make you realize, oh, like this is something no one has watched the Sixers has ever been able to witness before, someone scoring 70 points in a game. But yeah, definitely I think the guys in that locker room feel lucky to have him as their teammate, and they're feeling really good about the direction of this group now for a very good reason.
It was one of those nights, man. Greg Popovich joking with the media and his pregame availability that he told Victor Wembanyama to put Joel through the backboard and, to really take it to him and whatnot, all tongue in cheek. But that was the backdrop for this ridiculous performance from Joel Embiid. Then we got the Brett Brown moment after the game, and I thought it was really cool to see him being Joel Embiid, Furkan, and Robert Covington talking with Brett. But not enough was said in that meeting. Brett and Joel had to break off and have a little more conversation afterward, just the two of them, one-on-one. And Joel joking that he finally passes the ball now, telling Brett that he's passing the ball now. But
yeah, look, I mean, definitely a cool moment. And I think it's very easy to forget that Joel Embiid started actually playing basketball at 16 years old. So he's been doing this less than half his life. And Brett Brown was his coach for quite a while, I guess, 6 or 7 years with the Sixers, including some dark, hard moments personally where he was, dealing with.
When we met him, he had a cast on. He had a big cast on his leg with a Cameroonian flag on it. So
dealt with family tragedy his rookie year and the frustration of not being able to get on the court for 2 full seasons. And a lot of uncertainty, a lot of skepticism about what he would be, and not winning right away. A lot of injury ups and downs, a lot of moments that were discouraging, and that made you wonder whether Embiid could ever fulfill his potential. Obviously, and Brett Brown did not get to see things all the way through, but I think you really appreciate how he was there. He was there for a lot. Including, the process years, but also that era where you noticed Embiid really ascending into a great player, becoming an all-star, becoming a guy who could do a little bit of everything. And I think cool of Joel Embiid to kind of bring Brett Brown into the night and ensure that he wasn't forgotten there.
Man, those things don't get lost on Joel. He's very cerebral in that way. And obviously, virtuoso on the court. Let's throw the numbers out there. 70 points, 24 for 41 from the floor, 21 of 23 from the free throw line, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, and
one turnover, which is kind of wild for somebody to touch the ball that much. Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, heap it on because he deserves all the praise. And I like I said, don't know if we're making enough of this points per minute thing because it's just so rare that we even have the chance to talk about something like this. But points this season, 1,156. Minutes this season, 1,096. 38 points per 36 minutes and 1.055 points per minute, ranked first in NBA history. And is that like too hard for people to wrap their heads around? Like, why isn't that being promoted more, do you think? Just because the season isn't over, or what do you think?
I don't know. I guess maybe as we get closer to the finish line, we'll be hearing more about that. I think if he indeed...
Because that's like a category all on its own.
Yeah, and it does feel like it definitely gets at what Joel Embiid is all about. Like, if he's on the court, he's going to score really quickly. It was funny, actually. I was thinking about Tobias Harris had that 37 a while back, maybe a week or two ago, and he was pushing right near the end for 40, and you weren't sure whether he was going to get it. But when Joel Embiid stood up to go back in that game, that meant that he was going to go past 60. He was probably going to go past 65. He is on the court, he's going to score really quickly. There's just no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, any other factors. So, I think that is a good stat to highlight, and we will keep tabs on it, most definitely. He's one of a few guys who has a real chance now to score, over 35 per game in a season, with Wilt, Rick Barry, James Harden, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. James Harden scored 36.13, Embiid is at 36.12. So he's having a very similar season to, I guess it was 18-19 when James Harden was, at the peak of his powers for the Houston Rockets, and obviously doing it in different ways to Harden. But
right, and that's one 3-pointer, bro.
Right,
we're talking about somebody scoring 70. Okay, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, maybe LeBron or Devin Booker, whoever you want to. Bro, this dude had 1 3-pointer.
Right. The steadiness of the scoring was exceptional, and it did feel like, when he...
That's like Pistol Pete. You know what I'm saying?
It is, yeah. And, just impossible to stop him, and that's not hyperbolic at all. So... he's obviously not a bad 3-point shooter. He's decent at that. Opponents respect his 3-point shot usually.
I don't need it at all.
He doesn't need it, right? He had the one, and I guess, near the end of the third quarter, it was, a tightly guarded 3. But besides that, he was glad to feast in the mid-range and at the foul line and with those put-back layups. And, it is abnormal, certainly, for a modern-day NBA player to score that many points without the benefit of the long range shot.
I do want to give a second to talk about Wemby. Bro, the touch, he's shooting under 30% from 3, but the free throw touch, the size of his hands, we talked a lot about, we haven't talked a lot about, but in basketball circles, you think about things, you notice things like, Shaq often complained sometimes the size of the ball in his hands, like the dexterity just isn't there for you to be able to shoot well. But this dude Wemby, who is super flexible, videos over here of him doing all types of bending and things like that, you wouldn't think someone of his size would be able to do. But his touch with the basketball, the way he plays around the rim and things like that, this dude is going to be a problem for a long time.
Yeah, he definitely met my expectations, and my expectations were really high. This was probably, in all honesty, the one game I was most intrigued by as far as like an opponent on the Sixers schedule. He started out hot, gave the Spurs a real lift there. I think took the Sixers a little aback, and definitely still some work to do with the jumper. As you said, it's just abnormal for anyone to be that tall, and then to calibrate what that should mean for their shooting form and like how far out they should, hold the ball and the grip on the ball and what have you. But yeah, the free throws look really good. He clearly has the ability to knock down jump shots, and they're much like Embiid in some ways. Like, there doesn't appear to be many skills that he lacks. Of course, strength-wise, he is very inferior to...
When Embiid lowers the shoulder, forget about it. Yeah.
And Embiid was glad to exploit that a few times. And I think many, big guys see him as a target, but, for the most part, he's shown he's capable of holding his own. He's leading the league in blocks right now. And, he's a special guy.
He's got heart. He's got, some moxie in the moment. He doesn't seem to be many weaknesses to me, and definitely worthy of the hype and the number one pick.
Yeah, and we'll see how things pan out with that Rookie of the Year race. I think him and Chet Holmgren are two of the better rookies we've seen in a while, and I imagine that could be a tight battle. But, you just really hope, for the sake of the game, that those guys can stay healthy. I mean, if we're able to watch them for 10, 15 years, we're going to see a lot of special performances. And it was neat as well for Joel Embiid to say, he hopes Wemby one day breaks Wilt's record, of 100 points. And just for him to want to see big men be great, and to recognize that this kid, who recently turned 20, is already pretty darn good. He's already averaging 20 and 10 and already flashes so many skills. And I thought, like, just seeing him in person, he processed the game a little better than I expected. Like, you see him making smart little backdoor cuts and, seeing opportunities to duck in and anticipating plays defensively. There's a lot to clean up. There's a lot of, veterans tools that he will learn over time. But there's so much to work with for a player who is 7'4" and truly not like anything we've ever seen. And Nico Batum has known him for a long time, since he was like 14 years old, has been a mentor. And just hearing him rave about how this guy is different definitely resonated with me. Like, we kind of throw that around a lot, that he's a unicorn, he's unique, there's no one like this guy. I think that's really true. I don't think there's a good comp for Victor Wembanyama. And a lot of the potential is already translating to strong performance, and there's a lot of lingering potential as well for someone who just turned 20, which is hard to fathom.
Let's just put basketball aside for a minute, and the size of this human, Noah. Like, I was wandering around the building one day when the Sixers were playing the Phoenix Suns, and I went down to the floor, and I just saw someone standing on the court, and their pants which just seemed so enormous. And I'm walking close. I'm like, who is that? And it was Ralph Sampson. Okay. So I had never seen someone that big in person. Victor Wembanyama, I mean, Ralph Sampson, he's very tall, and I think he was close to 7'4". Yep. But I just, he's an older man at that time. Wemby, the arms and the legs just look like they could be the same size. Like, he was just... Yeah. I mean,
he's got an 8-foot wingspan, and I fully believe that. Right. Just seeing him... I mean, for me...
It's crazy seeing a person that big.
Yes.
And even Joel, that funny way about him, he just kind of goes behind Wemby pregame and kind of like, woof, like... Ooh,
yeah. I'm used to that, yeah. I mean, for me, Boban Marjanovic is someone I've covered, who was 7'4" and definitely... had size that took everyone aback. But as you said, Wembanyama has the flexibility and the agility and the wing-like, intuition and skills that you don't expect whatsoever from someone that large. It takes a while to understand like what you're facing. You even saw that clip of Kelly Oubre Jr. kind of like guarding him and like, oh, that's only like his chest. Like, whoa, I'm not used to this whatsoever. I think he is very much different than anything we've ever seen. And yes, he was a footnote on this night, but worth just noting that he is already special, and we can expect a lot more great stuff. A shame, if you're a Sixers fan, that he's in the Western Conference. You're not going to see him
once a year.
Yeah, the only time you'd see him for an extended stretch is a Sixers-Spurs finals. But for now, I believe the Sixers play San Antonio near the end of the season, so you can cross your fingers that he won't be resting that game, and you'll get another chance to see him as a rookie.
You have nights like Monday night, and it kind of brings the stories out of people. And Barrett Brooks, one of the greatest storytellers I have ever met, and not simply because of how he tells the stories, because those are great, but he has so many varied experiences, and that also makes it better. So he played high school basketball, and as often the case, when you're kind of the tallest person or biggest person, they stick you in the middle. And he played in the 7-up shootout. He's from St. Louis against Sean Bradley. And he said at that time, he was already over 7 feet. And he said he went to the free throw line on defense to kind of guard him. And he was like, I'm going to give him a little bit of the business. And he said he was kind of elbowing him at the thing. And he thought he was hitting him in the chest. And he looked up and he was like hitting him like right in like his hip bone or something like that. So just the difference between playing and seeing these giant humans in person and, the actual experience is just very breathtaking sometimes.
Agreed. Yeah, no, yeah. It's like impossible to comprehend. Even if you're looking right at it, it doesn't make any sense. Some of the angles too. Sometimes it literally looks like he's dunking on a toy hoop. To me. It almost looks like he's dropping the ball down through the basket. So yeah.
I feel like sometimes, like on a putback, I felt like his feet were on the ground when he's like tipping it in.
It feels like that.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like obviously that would be a walk, but how can you're looking up here, you can't look at his feet and the ball at the same time. But
it was neat too to see like him warming up, doing those like 1 foot threes that he likes and will try occasionally. And I think you say fair enough. Like for anyone else, that doesn't really make any sense. But yeah, he's practicing that shot and he's so freaking long and coordinated that he's capable of making it. So the first taste of Wembanyama, and we'll hope there's some good other duels with Embiid down the line. Definitely reminded me of LeBron James's first game in Philly, which I was fortunate to be at in 2003, and obviously a very different player who had a lot more, sheer force and strength that were already fantastic in his game as an 18-year-old, but definitely came away with the same impression that health permitting, 20 years from now, he's still going to be here and he's still going to be one of the best in the world, probably.
I want to take a time out here, but what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about a little bit of what's upcoming for the 76ers, then take a time out because we're going to diverge into a little bit more larger, big picture NBA stuff. But the Pacers, very interesting matchup with, of course, Pascal Siakam in the mix, Tyrese Halliburton. Hopefully he's healthy. I don't know what his status is. I don't know if you've seen the memes with his most recent fit.
I was shown that, yes. Someone mentioned like a newsboy's fit. And I said, what do you mean? So,
but it looked exactly like that.
Yeah, he's a creative guy. And when he's on the sidelines, you're paying attention to Tyrese Halliburton. So, yeah, definitely something that if you haven't seen it, would recommend it. It's an unusual look.
Yeah, he definitely has the newsboy cap, the vest, and the memes are floating around, and you know how people get. So it's very funny if you have some free time. But hopefully he's on the court because great matchup would be between the Sixers and Pacers again. And we know they have the pace. Siakam and Embiid also always have some great back and forth. So that, as well as on Saturday, we have the Nuggets once again, so that'll be another great matchup for the 76ers. What are you thinking heading into these two matchups and how the Sixers can fare against these two squads?
Well, Deion Sanders needs Jokic versus Embiid. The whole last few months have been building up to him needing. He needs to see it. We will hope the same as well. And the Pacers, of course, are exceptionally quick and are working to integrate a new high caliber player in Siakam. So it's a good test for the Sixers, is what Nick Nurse said today. I think that the road trip starts off with some stiffer competition and then it eases up a bit, I believe.
Of course, Portland.
Yeah,
not a big
Portland, Golden State, and Utah, I believe, are all now at or under 500. So
I was so surprised to see them and the Lakers like neck and neck for like 9th and 10th in the Western Conference. How things have changed. The Timberwolves are first, and the Lakers and the Warriors are near the bottom of the Western Conference. But
yeah. So for the Sixers, wouldn't be surprising at all if they were to drop one of these first two. Mm-hmm. But boy, like if they win both of them, they're in a position where maybe we're looking at 9, 10, 11 wins in a row. I don't think that sounds outlandish to me. TBD when they will get DeAnthony Melton back, and I think that's important. Sixers say he'll be reevaluated in a week with that back injury, but sounds like that's trending in a good direction. Robert Covington will be out at least 3 to 4 more weeks with his left knee injury. And
bone bruise.
Yeah, they said bone bruise and inflammation. Nick Nurse has indicated that there's been on and off swelling that I guess hasn't ever subsided for long enough.
Doesn't sound fun.
Doesn't sound that encouraging. And yeah, Covington, 33 years old. You just hope the best for him, individually. And for the Sixers, of course, he was helpful as far as he's going to give you steals, blocks, and deflections when he's on the court. He's a 3-and-D guy who can, enhance your defensive versatility and, give you some good minutes off the bench. So for them, it's going to be a while until we might see Robert Covington again. That's unfortunate. But, regardless for the Sixers, seems like they've at least got their core pieces all gelling, all healthy, and definitely have the ability here, I think, to string together some encouraging wins on this trip. But I would say, obviously, the first 2 games of the trip look a little harder than the last 3. So Indiana is going to be a track meet, and the Sixers will do their best to keep up and to play their game. And it will be interesting, I think, to see the new look Pacers and what they throw at Joel Embiid the game after he scored 70. Right? I mean, Miles Turner, always a guy who struggles against Embiid. So I imagine Indy will try some different looks and try to get creative, because that is, of course, necessary. You can't play Joel Embiid 1-on-1 and expect anything less than sheer domination.
And worth noting, with the points Noah made about the Sixers who are getting healthier or bouncing back, 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks from the NBA trade deadline. So we'll see which of those Sixers are here and aren't, but worth keeping an eye on, particularly as that approaches. Let's pay some bills. We got to wrap up here soon. We are brought to you by Wilmington University, of course, and they're our title sponsor. Find your education home at Wilmington University, where your academic success is celebrated by a caring community. Explore your opportunities at wilmu.edu. Celebrity cook Steve Martirano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martirano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations for Martirano's Prime on Open Table. We have a few minutes here. Got to wrap up here soon. Noah, Doc Rivers is expected to be the new Milwaukee Bucks head coach. Adrian Griffin is out after a 4-year, almost $17 million deal that he didn't even make it half the season through, let alone one full season, half the season of that deal. And how should Sixers fans feel about him, Doc Rivers, kind of knowing this team as he does and being in the Eastern Conference with the direct competitor?
I'm not sure the knowledge of the team is necessarily very beneficial. I think all coaches have large staffs nowadays that do ample scouting, and I'm not sure that is an edge necessarily. I think just hard to underestimate the weirdness factor of a potential Sixers-Bucks playoff matchup, and I think there'd be a lot of shade, in the comments made. And
a lot of Sixers fans had thought that was a good matchup playoff-wise because of the way that those teams are configured. The Sixers could have an edge in a 7-game series over the Bucks.
Yeah, obviously, one of the reasons Adrian Griffin was fired is that there were concerning indicators in Milwaukee. They're a bottom 10 defensive team right now. Damian Lillard hasn't, gelled quite as well as they expected. They've won a bunch of close games against, teams that are not very good. And now they're hoping that Doc Rivers' experienced hand can give them some stability and give them a lift and some clarity about the direction of the team. And look, I wouldn't rule out that he does a good job this regular season, right? He led the Sixers to 54 wins last year, and I think has a track record of doing pretty well in the regular season as a coach. I know many have valid criticisms of his style and his inflexibility, but I think by and large, like, his teams tend to perform a little better than they should in the regular season. Now, of course, in the playoffs, there's a lot that you can say is not especially strong on his resume, right? He's fallen short many a time in the second round and had many situations where you can point to coaching as a reason that his team lost, not making the proper adjustments or being a little too stubborn about sticking with his guys, sticking with, a Dwight Howard in 2021, or, maybe being a little too late to recognize how, glaring Ben Simmons' weakness were in that series, or, whatever. You could go, he's got a long resume. It's a mixed resume. And look, if you want to feel that your team at least has someone who's been here before and is going to command respect from players, I think he is a coach who will check those boxes. But I'm not too sure how it's going to pan out there in the postseason. And I think if the Sixers and Bucks meet, I don't know much I can say confidently about how that will go, other than it'll be really strange. And maybe the Sixers will try to be diplomatic, but no, I think they will be a little more motivated to beat him and to have the new coach beat the guy who was just in charge here. So, yeah, for the time being, I am just really fascinated to see what Doc Rivers looks like again, coaching a superstar player in Giannis and a sensational guard in Damian Lillard. And I don't know. I don't think anyone has a great idea, but the Bucs made this pretty bold decision, I think, because you at least know a little more of what Doc Rivers brings to the table, as opposed to Adrian Griffin, who was a head coach for the first time and didn't really seem to have a team that trusted him or liked the work he was doing. So, yeah, one of Nick Nurse's close assistants in Toronto, and he did not last long in Milwaukee.
I will let Noah have the last word on that. And Sixers Bucks, February 25th.
Yep.
In South Philly.
In Philly, yeah. I was just looking that up before. I had some curiosities. Yeah. So we normally think about, is the returning player going to get booed, and how much are they going to get booed, a James Harden or a Ben Simmons or whatever. Boy, Doc Rivers pregame,
they might throw things on the court.
You would hope not, but no, he's going to receive serious ire from fans. And I think there's going to be ample juice for that matchup beyond what there already would have been with, great players squaring off.
Hopefully the emotions don't get too high for the Sixers. They play the Celtics 2 days later. And obviously two nemesis as for the Sixers getting past the Eastern Conference into the NBA Finals, at least past the second round. Let's just start there. But for Noah Levick and Ben Barry, I'm Danny Pommells. Always a pleasure. Wish we had more time to spend with you, but that is the Sixers Talk podcast brought to you by Wilmington University. WilMU Works. We'll see you next time.